What's up, Redemption? How you doing? How's everyone's week going? Hopefully it's going well. I know everyone's excited for the news to drop that I found out from Chris and Gabe last week regarding another piece of the puzzle to the hype that is building for Nationals. And I've got my boy Jayden on this week, and we're going to get right into it. I know I poked some fun on Discord about saving it for the last 5 minutes of the episode and just building it up, but we're not going to do that to you. We're going to get right into it. So thanks for being here. As always, really appreciate you guys tuning in. All right, thank you for joining. My name is John Hendricks, and I am joined by a friend of the podcast, Jayden. How you doing, Jayden?
Doing all right. How are you?
I am good. Kind of pushing the envelope here to get this recorded and edited for tomorrow, which seems to be the case these days. But as we've kind of mentioned the last few days and built the hype up for an announcement or a bit of information that I gathered from Chris and Gabe last week, instead of saving it for later in the episode like I mentioned that I might do on Discord, I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now. Go ahead and drop that nugget. But first, I want to see, do you have any guesses what you think it might be? Because you don't know at this point, right?
Oh yeah, I have no idea what the surprise is here. So I feel like it's got to have something to do with Nats. Like I feel like that was kind of the build-up is like, Nats. There's something else with Nats past the starter decks and Phase 2 booster draft and all that.
Exactly. And it's something about the event of Nationals and something that is happening at Nationals. Let me go ahead. I'll give you a list of names, and you just try to tell me what might be the common thread among all of these names, okay?
Okay.
All right. Daniel Hazinga. I think I said that right.
Uh-huh.
Your brother Justin, John Early, Gabe, Josh Nitt, Josiah Beers, Isaac Miller, J.D. Cunningham, Tyler Stevens, Brian Jones, yourself. So those are the names, and they have one common thread.
These are all people who have made a player-created card.
That's right. These players have all won a category and made a player-created card. And from the conversation last week with Gabe, the Elder team have talked to Rob, and they are bringing back Create a Card incentive for winners. But not only that, it used to be like it was a random category, or I don't really know how they picked that, but it was just, a couple of categories that got to do it.
Uh-huh.
All 5 officially sanctioned categories at Nationals will create a card.
Okay.
So, Create a Card is coming back to Nationals.
So that's everything but Type A, which, I guess Type A is technically officially sanctioned, right?
Sure. I'm not really sure about that. I know that Gabe told me specifically it was five categories, so I'm assuming that's booster, sealed, teams, and Type 1 and Type 2.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I do have the parameters. So obviously there was a reason that they stopped doing the Create a Card. And
Joshua. No, I'm just kidding.
As you can imagine, Joshua is kind of part of that. So Gabe did mention that it will be different, and it had to be different. So it's going to be a more simplistic card that is created, and that is to avoid the potential for what he quoted as semi-broken cards. And if we look at all of the cards that have been created, I think Joshua might be a main offender as far as that goes. But if you're using Joshua, I'm sure you don't mind. But if he's used against you, then that's where you're like, it's a little too strong. It's a little bit above the power level.
Even when I'm using him, though, I do kind of feel like I don't like not use him because I feel bad or anything. But when I do use him, I'm kind of like, man, this is just like free value.
Yeah. So to avoid situations like that, they did add some guidelines and parameters, and I'll go over those. Not only is it different and it's going to be more simplistic, we mentioned that all 5 winners of an official category at Nats will have the option to create a card. limit 1 card per player. So that means if you win 2 categories or more, you'll make a card from the first win, and then the second one you would pass down to the next eligible player or runner-up for that category.
Bummer.
Makes sense.
Can't create. Can I just create 3 like very similar cards? Maybe do like a Sadducees kind of thing with different arts, you know?
Well, you could, but you'd have to get your buddy to come in, or somebody to come in second behind you if you win multiple categories.
Okay, fine.
So, so repeat winners will pass their second card down to the next eligible runner-up of that category. Elders also, because looking at the list of cards that have been created, elders are listed, a decent amount through that. Gabe mentioned that they wanted to make sure that it was something where, they didn't take it away from the community or whatnot. So elders will not.
You already get to create cards.
Right. They will not be creating cards. And if an elder wins, so if John Early wins type 1, the next eligible runner-up would get the privilege of creating a card for that category.
Makes sense.
And here's where we get into some of the specifics about it. The card that will be created is going to be limited to a character or an enhancement. So no fortresses, no sites, no artifacts, that type of thing. So it's going to be listed or limited to character or enhancement, limited also to a single brigade, and then limited to 2 or 3 abilities. This is how Gabe explained it to me. Mm-hmm. And more than likely will include a choice of this or that, similar to cards that we've seen where they have multiple benefits that you can, gain, but you have to make a choice on how you use that. You do this or that. And then they will not have any modifiers applied to them, so no cannot be prevented, interrupted, negated, or regardless of protect, that type of thing. So we're making pretty basic cards.
So it seems like it's pretty similar to back in, 2010, 2009, when you got to create yourself, I guess, a card for yourself that was legal for one tournament season, and you got like a set of, strength and toughness that you could pick. I'm pretty sure John talked about it on the collecting podcast.
He did.
Is that right? Yeah.
And we shared the image of that when we posted to Land of Redemption of his card, where he had his red dragon stuffed animal.
And the koala bear.
Yeah, the koala bear. That's right. But yeah, so now he didn't tell me what the abilities are that you get to pick from, or if they are limited to a select pool. He just said at most you would have like 2 abilities, and then there would be a choice of which to use on the card as it's played. So I don't know what the actual abilities are going to be on the cards, but you can create a character or enhancement that is a single brigade. The winners will be provided with the theme and scripture reference from the design team for the next set that they are working on. And if the winner chooses to stay within those parameters for their card, it will release with that next set. So, that kind of makes sense that here's what we're working on. If you make a card that fits within this, we'll get it out with this set.
Right.
If you choose not to, and you create a card outside of those parameters, the design team cannot guarantee that your card will be included in the next set, but it will be released within the next 3 years. So this could be in a future set. It could be a promo card or some other type of release. So if you stay within the parameters that they provide, it'll come out with the next set. If not, you're looking at potentially up to 3 years before it's released.
So you're going to do it from the next set, basically, is what you're saying.
Basically, or if you go rogue, you're just going to have to be willing to wait for your card to come out.
Yeah.
Players will get to choose their artwork. I asked Gabe about this because I am not aware, being a newer player. I've only been to 1 Nats. I haven't won a category, obviously, that had a stipulation or an incentive for creating a card. So I don't know about that. That's why we have you on. In a minute, I will let you kind of tell us what the process was previously. But players get to choose their own artwork, provided that it is public domain or otherwise free to Cactus. And what I mean by otherwise free to Cactus is that if you had someone that you wanted to commission art from, Gabe mentioned that Covenant of Prayer that he created, the artwork was done by a friend's wife, and he got that commissioned and was able to use that. Also, and I thought this was pretty cool because I didn't know this, but Leviathan was Josiah's card that he created, and that was in 2017 that he won and was able to create the card, and he had that artwork commissioned by a friend. So those are unique artwork pieces to Redemption that came by way of the Create a Card incentive. So I guess that's how it's changing. And so I think for most people, yeah, it seems a little bit like when you look at the fact that, like, let's just use a card, for example, Faith, which is a really strong card that you get to go and grab a character from your deck, reserve or discard pile, shuffle it for a future use. You know, unless you put it into your discard pile for the exchange. That's a pretty strong card. Obviously, we're not going to have cards of that strength level anymore, but it's still going to be pretty cool to create a card and be able to, know that you created a card that's in the game. If you care about the game of Redemption, just have your name on a card, or not necessarily your name. They don't put the name of the player on the card specifically, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The
category.
Right.
The year.
The wow factor is still there for knowing that you had input on a card. So I think it's still something to chase after and enjoy if you do win and get to do that. So you made Bethlehem, which was a city it was in LOC, and you made it after the 2019 national tournament in Knoxville. So what was the process like when you went through the process to create that card?
Yeah, so for whatever reason, they decided to switch things up a little bit that year and change up the categories that they would allow the winners to create cards for. So Type 2 multiplayer somehow got to be the one on the day that was, just because they didn't want to only give it to like Type 1-2 player and that kind of stuff. There was a little bit of debate about that, but that's how it was in 2019, and I didn't happen to win Type 2 multiplayer that year. So basically what they do is, or at least what they did is, you were paired up with an elder. So you guys were kind of like partners in creating this card, and you would kind of pitch your idea to them, and they would give their feedback, and you would basically just kind of create the card, and they were supervising. And then once the two of you kind of worked it out to a state where you think, okay, the card is mostly balanced and seems pretty reasonable, they would present it to the rest of the elder team, and kind of put more eyes on it, obviously, to make sure that nothing's kind of slipping through. And so with me, it was basically, I was paired up with John early just because it made a lot of sense that I would be with my brother-in-law because we live close and can work together and that kind of stuff. So I pitched the idea, or I told him that that year, I guess, Mourn and Weep was a big deal. Wages of Sin was very good, and so the card that I kind of, or that I wanted to come up with was something to kind of combat those or counter those a little bit. And so that's where the Fortress side of the ability came from. I was kind of wanting it to be like a GAM speech kind of effect, I guess, where you can negate those cards after they're played. Unfortunately, the way that it's worded doesn't actually let you do that, because the negate defaults to play. And so if you play Wages of Sin and then it gets underdecked, or Mourn and Weep and it gets banished, then you don't get to negate it. But that was a slight oversight in the rules at that point.
You said you had wanted to create it to combat Mourn and Weep, and what was the other card?
Wages of Sin.
Wages, okay.
So Mourn and Weep got banned anyway, so I was like, all right, well, I guess that's not too bad.
Well, you know what actually probably happened is John let you he intentionally let you make a card that didn't work the way that you wanted because it would have messed up his confusion card that he created previously.
That is true. Yeah, confusion was kind of another one of those. Yep. Huh. I'll have to ask him about that. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
John.
he always knows what he's doing. He thinks he's pretty slick, but I see
Yep.
through him.
Yep. Hmm. Well, anyways, I still thought that the card was pretty decent. Triggers off of multi-brigade evil characters, which are all over the place, and the multi-brigade evil enhancements that were played in battle. And then the sight side, still fairly decent. It was pretty thematic when in the set, which take that Brian and JD. Their cards didn't really have anything to do with Line of Christ, so I get brownie points for that. Um, and then the initially wanted it to be like your Ruth and Luke heroes cannot be negated. They figured out that that was just a little bit too powerful, so we ended up going with cannot be prevented. And the Luke part was kind of added on, knowing that GOC was the next set that we were working on, and so it would have some implications there as well.
Yeah, I was wondering how that came about. If they just told you, hey, we need this to throw in to match the other set that's coming out. Um, did you pick out the artwork on that card, or
No,
did they
actually,
help you with that?
so uh, I mean, I kind of approved it, I guess. So I was actually over at John's house when we were kind of brainstorming ideas or whatever, and I was like, oh, why not Bethlehem City? And so John just hopped on Google and was looking for free art or stuff that we could use for free. I think that part has pretty much stayed the same, the free to cactus part, and so he found this art, and I thought it looked pretty cool, so we kind of cropped it up and got the good, or I guess the best layout for it. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
I
certainly
thought
could have found it on my own if I wanted to and kind of submitted it to him, but John just went for it and found this piece, which I thought was great.
yeah, I think the artwork really stands out on it.
Yeah.
Um, was there any talk when you made it, because there was another recent Bethlehem that came out? Was there any talk of or any resistance to creating? Did you select to make it Bethlehem, or were you just targeting to make it a fortress or whatever, and they helped you with the suggestion so that it blended with GOC, or did you pick out Bethlehem, and then was there any pushback because there was another Bethlehem promo that had recently come out?
So I think if I remember correctly, I'm gonna pull up the old Bethlehem just to. If I remember correctly, I wanted it to initially be dual alignment or dual testament, sorry, so that I could, similar to the other one that had just come out, because that one is Matthew and Micah, and so I thought it'd be cool to have one that's Ruth and Luke that kind of does the I guess not the same thing as the other one, but where the same thing in the sense that it kind of helps two themes. I mean, I guess the other one's kind of generic and can help a lot of stuff, but um, there was a little bit of like, I don't know if we really want to print the same card, but because it's a different verse and works in a much different way, they were okay with that, but they did not. The way that Dual Testament works is that it has to be a direct quote in the New Testament from the Old Testament.
Oh, gotcha.
So weren't able to find something. Luke does not quote Ruth, as far as I know, especially not about Bethlehem. So
Okay, well that's fair. I was just wondering. I figured there might have been some kind of at least conversation there, because it was basically just a reprint of something that had recently come out.
yeah,
Reprint with a new ability, but
right, yeah,
um,
there was some talk about that, but it would have been really cool if I could have made it a nativity card and a Ruth card.
yeah, that would have been
Fun.
pretty cool. But then they would have had to tell you that Nativity was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that was decided at that point, although maybe not because they didn't put the identifier on the Son of God that I think came out around the same time as the Bethlehem before it. So
Okay. Well, um, I also have, and I sent you over the images for all of the currently created cards from this
hmm
incentive at Nationals for the winner created cards. And there's currently 15 of them in existence. You've got, they started out with Cloud of Witnesses. There was 3 cards made, and it was made by, there's Coliseum in Cloud of Witnesses made by Daniel Huizinga.
hmm
Did I say that right again?
I think so.
Well, I
It's
think
been
so
a while
too. And
since I've heard his name. I think like either Huizinga or Huizinga.
yeah, like I can't tell which one to say. Both of them sound like they could be right. So, Mr.
Yeah,
Daniel, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
maybe you could say like Bazinga from Big Bang Theory.
Bazinga. And then you've got Word of Their Testimony, which was made by your brother Justin. And then John Early made Confusion in Cloud of Witnesses.
hmm
And you see that there was 2 elders out of the 3 cards there, so I guess you kind of see why Gabe mentioned that they wanted to get away from the elders taking, the winner slots for making
Right.
cards. And then in Revelation of John, you've got Covenant of Prayer, which was made by Gabe himself, and then The Ends of the Earth was made by Josh Knit.
Now that one actually is surprises a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure I've got it right when in saying that his he pronounces it Knit,
Knit.
kind of like
Okay.
Knutson.
All right. Well, Mr. Josh, I apologize as well if you ever listen. Um,
You can just call him Master Q. Yeah.
oh, that's that guy. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, it seems like every time you're on, I'm just going to mispronounce names, so you're my bad luck charm.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
sorry.
and then also in Revelation of John, Not Alone was created again by Justin. And then Fall of Man, we've got Daniel again making Lost Anointing, and Josiah made Leviathan. The Mighty Warrior was made by Isaac Miller. And also in Fall of Man, so I guess there was 4 for
hmm
Fall of Man. You have Hope made by J.D. Cunningham. Prophecy of Christ, there was only 2 made. Tyler Stevens made Scapegoat, and Brian Jones made Faith. In LOC, there was 3. You made Bethlehem that we mentioned. Joshua
hmm
the Conqueror was made by Brian Jones, and then J.D. Cunningham again. So, and he made Faith Unbowed. So, and this is what I think is really cool, even if it is um, a watered down version compared to just the all gas and no brakes version here of just make a card, go crazy, get crazy with
uh-huh.
it, cannot be negated, protected from dominance, what have you, regardless of protect.
Yeah.
Um, you want to esteem it that highly, but it's almost like you know, a living Hall of Fame for players that have won national categories. So
Yeah.
you've got people on here. Most, well, I won't say most, but there's quite a few on here that appear at least one or at least twice. Um, you got Daniel's on here twice, Justin's on here twice, um, JD's on here twice, and Brian Jones is on here twice, and a lot of these other ones like John, he's not on here again, but he won other categories and things of that nature. But
Right.
maybe either passed it down or didn't. It wasn't in the category that he won. That was getting to create a card. So it's some of the better players of the game have their name on cards, and I think that's pretty cool to preserve that, even if it is a more simplistic card that's being created. It still kind of serves its purpose for doing
hmm
that.
Yeah.
Um,
People will see it and be like, "Oh, 2019 National Tournament Type 2 multiplayer winner creation. I wonder who that was." And
yeah,
then
and then they'll be
they'll
like, "Oh
do some
my God, will
research.
you sign my card?" And then you'll say it's going to cost you $5, and then you'll go buy a pack of cards, and then you'll open the ultra rare, which is going to have the ultra rare plus right behind it. You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah. That's actually the
uh,
plan. I haven't signed any cards yet. or I haven't signed a Bethlehem yet. So that could very well still happen.
Nice, nice.
And you did
Um,
call me opening 2 ultra rares, so if you're calling this now,
if
maybe
it
you're my good
happens,
luck charm. It
if
goes
it
back and forth.
well, if it happens, you better give me one of those ultra rares.
All right, I will do that.
Uh, because that would just be there's no way that would ever happen. But again, I did two different tournaments in Tennessee this year. I did randomly from a desk full of Cloud of Witness packs tell Jonathan Gomez which pack to open in two different occasions, separated by at least a month, and both times he opened a second coming.
Wow.
So maybe I am good luck. Who knows?
Yeah, could be.
Um,
I believe it.
so what I thought would be really cool to do is just take a few minutes and look over these cards, because if you look at these cards, some of them don't get as much play. Like there's one card in here that I have never personally played, and that's Not Alone. I've never played that card. Not
Mm-hmm.
that it's necessarily a bad card or anything. I've never played it. Honestly, I don't own it. That's probably the biggest reason I've never played it.
That
That'll
helps.
usually do it for you. Um,
You can
but
play
all of
the
these other
Becky.
cards, yeah, all of these other cards at some point I have played. Um, some more than others. Like Faith is, something I've played plenty. Being that I started playing Flood Survivors, play Noah base decks a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
Cloud, Cloud Heroes and things of that nature. It's a good card. But you start looking at these and you can see what Gabe means when they're semi broken cards. So I thought it'd be cool for us to rank them. There's 15 of them, to rank them. However, we have to do that. Toss it back and forth, but to rank them 1 through 15.
Hmm.
And you can rank them just based on how good they are as an individual card, or you can do their card value, like what they are as a card, plus their meta relevance or meta presence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how we want to start the ranking here, but I guess it's probably easier to start at the bottom and work our way up.
I think that's reasonable. First of all, or
So
though, I would like to say before we start that I'm glad to hear that you have used Bethlehem in a deck.
yeah, I tried to. I think originally I tried to do when LOC first came out. I did Windows of Narrow Light with the Meek Ruth characters,
Mm-hmm.
and tried to get them CBP in, when they come into battle to get their abilities or whatnot. It didn't
Oh,
really
okay.
work out all that well. So, but the Fortress side's one. I have not played it on the Fortress side, but every time I look at the Fortress, I'm like, that could be good. It's kind of
Yeah.
got some of that like insane ability to create card advantage that like Treacherous Land does.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like I feel like Damascus is maybe a comparable one. Like T Land, you get triggers all the time.
Yeah,
Damascus and Bethlehem, I feel like are kind of similar. But
yeah,
David Outcast Refuge, he's a fun one to use with Bethlehem because he just you reserve the hero and then you can just ban to him straight from reserve.
yeah. So I don't know how you want to pick this. I would, if you're asking me which one I think is at the bottom. Um, I don't know how are we gonna do this.
I mean, I feel like you already kind of put it there by saying you
So
haven't
Not
used it.
Alone.
I think that one is probably alone at the bottom.
Okay, so Not
I
Alone
mean,
is at the bottom.
it was a good card and it was used a lot when it first came out, I think, because interrupt and banned, and not only can it doesn't just interrupt the battle, it can interrupt a neutral or evil card. So things like Unholy Writ or Magic Charms. Magic Charms was more when it came out, I guess, or has been more popular. But I don't know. Right now, I think that uh, the fact that your hero has to be alone and only bans to humans, it's multi-brigade, which means that Lying Prophet and Damsel both get a huge benefit off of it being in your hand. um, I think that kind of is what caused the decline.
Not to mention if you played it and banned it in Um, they could, uh, I guess it would work to where they could go lurking into Xerxes. Doesn't it just count the brigades in battle,
Um, oh,
or is it on your heroes specifically?
I think it's number of might just be number of opponents' good brigades. So yeah, it would count them. So if they, lurking into outsiders or messenger of Satan or yeah, Xerxes, that would not be good for you.
As someone that has played a lot of Noah, and unfortunately you get stuck with that meek side where you didn't get
Right.
to bounce them to do the prevent, and you just go into battle with them to play your
Mm-hmm.
enhancement or whatever, and then they hit you with something that punishes you for having them all like Seized by Babylon is literally his Achilles
Yep.
heel. Seized by Babylon kills Noah.
I feel like seized and outsiders probably both have
Yeah.
equal shot there.
Although I haven't seen Outsiders versus him too much. It doesn't see a ton of play with our play group, but that's it would still
Sure, yeah.
cripple him. Uh, but I didn't run into that as much as the Seized by
I
Babylon.
once played a tournament game against John Early, and I attacked. I think it was twice with either. I think the first time was with Noah, and the second time it was either with Noah or Noah was in my territory. And twice he blocked with outsiders. Got to draw 9, and I had to wait to negate it.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was pretty
Um,
salty.
yeah. So not alone at number 15. So now we're looking for number 14. Do you want to suggest? I think it's between two. But I'll let you say
Oh,
first
man.
so that I don't influence you.
Hmm. Um.
And again, just because we're ranking these cards does not mean that they're not good cards.
Right. Right.
Like with the right application, these cards are all fantastic.
Yep.
It's just a matter of some of them are not as strong with the current game and the way that the game has adapted the last few years since they came out, to where they're not all seeing as much play and they're not all as relevant in today's game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my number 14 would probably have to be Hope. I think that there are decks where it is good, like you were saying. If you're running Joy, Peace, or the Holy Spirit, like it's definitely going to be in there. Um, but yeah, other than that, I don't know that I'd necessarily use it for the enhancement side specifically. So it'd kind of be that's kind of what I'm going with. I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one. That actually wasn't one of the two, but that's only because I wasn't thinking, it wasn't on my radar for a second. Uh, but and you would think that if it had a modifier on the enhancement side that said cannot be prevented, so that you could play interrupt the battle, add to battle from your top 7 through an active negate, then that card would be, first of all, it'd be way too strong, but it would definitely not be 14 on this list. But because it gets shut down by easily being negated both ways, and it's kind of like some of those older cards where what was that one card when I got into the game? It was like there was a couple of cards that referred to like Dragon Raid has no effect.
Oh yeah.
Like it only works with it only works in a limited fashion with this other. I know it's one of the things that like Derek mentioned about the way the game used to be, is like the cards were so specific
Right.
that like if you weren't using these other cards, then it just had no purpose. So if you're not using Joy, Peace, the Holy Spirit, then it really doesn't benefit you all that much, because the enhancement side isn't strong enough for you to throw that in, with teal and green, because they've got maybe teal could use it a little bit more, but green just has so many other good enhancements that interrupt the battle and do things, and you're not adding a modifier to get through anything.
Yeah, and not to mention Joy and Peace are neither of those are teal or green, and the Holy Spirit benefits off of New Testament heroes, which there are some New Testament prophets and a few New Testament priests But I think that in the decks where the hero side is good, the enhancement side is, you know, not going to be used as much. And in decks where the enhancement side is good, the hero side won't really do much. So it seems like it's kind of, uh, you want to have the value on both, but it would be kind of tough.
Yeah, I think it being 7-0 would. I mean, it could be a decent toss card in the right application,
That's
but
true.
it doesn't easily get tossed because it's not cannot be negated. So you'd have to have like Goshen or something that actively tosses.
So here's what you do.
Um,
You play the hero side and search for peace. Then you put peace onto St. Patrick. Then you get a bounce hope somehow, and then you can toss it off of St. Patrick.
Always scheming, aren't you?
Yep.
You've already broken the game. So
Just wait for
with
next
your
week.
deck out first turn. Oh man. All right, so 13. I will tell you, I'll go ahead and insert here that I was thinking on the last one, I was like, Scapegoat and Lost Anointing, and both of those are really good. Um, but like Lost Anointing, I think is really strong in the right application because if you're using, especially with everybody playing a version of David when LOC came out, your David could be successful, and then you could discard their version just because yours had been successful with the way that works. So it could be really good in the right application, but it never, like, even when I've added it to a deck, it's always been one of those that I'll cut just because you got to wait for them to be successful in battle to do it, and then it didn't offer enough value for other things that would fit in. And then Scapegoat is another one that it's really good if you're trying to stall out to get a combo off or something like that. But the fact that it makes you skip your turn as well, especially with like undesirables coming out,
Yep.
I mean, there's just a better option to try to get that ability. And then this is another one to where you've got the character side, and even though you've got the negate on the other one, and it's actually a really good negate because it's territory class and it banishes a curse or an evil enhancement. So even if they play like Confusion of Mind, you could play that and you don't negate it, but you could banish it because you can do as much as you can. Which actually, I guess now as I'm talking about it, that seems really strong. So maybe it's not necessarily that low. But those were the two that I was thinking just from the ones that I've played.
Yeah, I think both of those are probably pretty close to the that bottom-ish area for me. I think
And also Bethlehem's pretty close to there too.
I honestly I wouldn't really argue with argue with you there. It's good, but
just
it's
because it's like it's good. It's good on the fortress
yeah,
side. And if you're using it on the site side, but now there's so many ways to negate neutral that it doesn't have a modifier on its own, so it would easily be negated. And the fortress, there's just so many really good fortresses right now. It's hard to find a spot for them in a Type 1 deck, which is what I
right.
play.
Yeah. Well, the site side it grants a modifier, so it can't be negated inherently.
Oh
Um,
yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. So it's kind of like humble and wicked.
yeah. So I think that the decks that I'd be playing Bethlehem in mostly these days would be a Ruth or Luke deck, where I might use the site if the site would have some purpose in my deck, but I would probably mostly still use the fortress. Um,
Yeah, if Covenant with Death was still a thing,
yeah, that would be good.
then it would be a little bit higher
Yeah.
up.
With Lost Anointing, I think pretty much that is kind of relegated to the reserve at this point, where it's like if you have a way to get it with Storehouse or Wages of Sin, and you can use it on a hero that or an evil character that either your opponent has that's been blocking you or making rescues, or if they do happen to have a version of a character that you were successful in battle with. I think that there's a reason for it to be. pulled out of reserve there. But yeah, I don't see myself main decking Lost Anointing in very many decks.
Yeah. And one of the characters that's the the most annoying that you would try to get rid of is like after they've come in and made you toss your next enhancement with Jeremiah.
Mhm.
So you're like, all right, I'm gonna get this, but uh, I, I'm I just don't see the value there when there's other ways to take care of that.
Right. Yeah, I think it does. The one case where it is the best is if you get it on like your opponent's foreign wives or something, because it does have that regardless of protectabilities part, which might be more relevant now that we're seeing a little bit more protection with stuff like Mary and um, you know
See,
Humble
see, you're
Seeker.
doing it like I did with Scapegoat. You're
I know I'm kind
you're
of
sitting here talking about
backtracking a
why
little
it
bit.
should be at the bottom of the list, and you're like, well, it actually could be applicable for this situation.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna do that with all of these, though. I still feel like it belongs down here. And I think Scapegoat, I think you were kind of on the right track with that too at the beginning when you're talking about how like it can be good if you're trying to stall, and it can be all right as a negate, but right now, negates on good enhancements. If the enhancement only negates, then banishes or discards or whatever, then it's probably not doing enough for you. It's like too situational.
I think Scapegoat was one of those that I played in Flood for a little bit, and then um, like Behemoth just fits that slot a lot better as a negate, and then is a good backbone of an evil character if you need to try to get a block with it. This thing you're not ever even really trying to push into battle and play an enhancement because I mean if you put it in battle, uh, I mean you're you're pretty low on resources at that point. I would think.
Right.
So we've talked about three, but mostly between Scapegoat and Lost Anointing. So what do you think should be 13?
Um, hmm. I think I'm probably putting Scapegoat at 13. I think that would be my thought. I think like what really separates Scapegoat from Mourn and Weep is the restricts the player from attacking on their next turn, whereas Mourn and Weep was skips their next battle phase. So you could do it at the beginning of your turn if you're like, all right, I don't have a Lost Soul to rescue and I don't have a way to generate one, so I'm just going to go and use this now. And uh, it's good that it's not that because that's what made Mourn and Weep so bonkers. That in multiplayer, and that's why I got the band hammer. But I think that the other side that Scapegoat is at now, like if you're not really trying to stall, then it's not going to be all that great, and not a whole lot of people are trying to stall right now anyway.
All right. So if we put Scapegoat there, I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to throw Lost Anointing at 12.
I think that's probably fair. I would probably play Bethlehem before playing Lost Anointing.
Yeah, and I think Bethlehem is probably right there for next. Um, but
Maybe.
I'll open it up to your discussion.
I'd,
It
yeah, I can see that.
Mighty Warrior is also one of those, dude. Let me tell you this, and Brad or Jeremy are gonna listen to this, and they're going to like reach out to me and make fun of me because we played booster draft right
Hmm.
at our recent tournament. The tournament I told you I was going to Jeremy's
Yep.
for a few weeks back, and I had this awesome play to go in with captured. Is it captured kinsman that does the add your red warrior to
Yep.
battle? Okay, so I was coming in with him. I had a negate in my hand, and this might have gotten me the momentum to win a soul, but I had the original Mighty Warrior. That was not a warrior
Oh
class.
no.
So I realized after I was like, I'll capture him to not do anything. And I was so mad. And they just kept clowning me about the Mighty Warrior not being a warrior. Like, how is it in the title, but it's not? I know that it predated like warrior class icons or whatnot, but gosh, it just frustrated me so bad because it was like if I got that, I would have had a chance to win. And the way that it broke was I ended up coin. We just decided to coin flip for. There was four of us playing booster, and we coin flipped the two that tied at third, and I ended up losing the coin flip and going all the way down to fourth when I had a chance to win the
Oh,
thing.
rip. Here I
So
thought you were going to say that you added the Mighty Warrior to battle, thinking you're going to, be able to toss the next evil enhancement, but then realized it was negated by Captured Kinsman. But this was much worse.
no, no, yes, this was much more frustrating. But then, like, if you take Mighty Warrior and you take away the fact that, like, Josh used it in his Nationals winning deck for Type 1 this year, and he also, throughout the Lackey Grand Prix at certain points, I think he had it in the post exilic deck that he was running. Well, I think he had it in there before it fully turned to. Before it fully turned into post exilic exclusive on the heroes, or more exclusive. There was still a splash. But apart from that, I don't see many people using Mighty Warrior either. So
Yeah,
maybe
I can see that.
maybe this is coming up for a spot for it, maybe.
I think that I don't know. Yeah, I guess like on the surface though, he seems like such a good hero because he's like basically Jeremiah. But I think the fact that he has to be alone and just it's not a cloud hero, so it's a little bit harder. Not a prophet, so he doesn't get the benefit off of that stuff. And Jeremiah is a priest too. He's got all those identifiers that help a lot.
And as Josh can tell you, he's also not able to use some of the stronger enhancements for green, like two bears that says if used by a prophet,
Right.
interrupt the battle, do whatever. I think that came up at Nationals. He ended up running into an issue like that. So he seems really good, and I see why he's included in decks like what Josh was doing at Nationals. And obviously he made the right call because he won the thing. But apart from like, using him in a very specific way or having him in there for a very specific reason, I don't see a lot of people running him.
Right.
I've honestly, before Josh used it, I don't know that I've ever seen anyone run it except for Brad trying to do it at one point, but then realizing how limited he actually is
Yeah.
because he doesn't have the identifiers and things of that nature. And there's not a ton of, Isaiah cards or whatever that you're going to be, targeting to pick up from the top of your deck.
Yeah, it's just kind of spread out between like too many different themes. Like he involves music, so I put him in a music deck. But he's green and red, so and he's a warrior, so maybe I put him with warriors, or he's has synergy with Isaiah, so maybe I do that. And in certain decks where you're able to mix one or two of those themes, like he's going to be one of your best heroes. But I agree with what your analysis is here. Although I will say, I have a hard time putting Word of Their Testimony any higher than Mighty Warrior. I think that it is it's a decent battle winner, but I don't think it gets used in any decks that aren't running Justin Martyr, and like they're pretty much just doing it for the draw two, and everybody searches for Blood of the Lamb first anyway.
Yeah, or they search for it again with a martyr in the discard pile, which is what I do.
Right.
Like, what are their testimonies just chilling in the reserve? And I'm like, it's in there in case I need it. Jay looked at that Ruth and that Ruth deck where I added the little like mini theme of martyrs with it, just as like while you're building your big Ruth band with the heroes,
Sure.
getting enough meat down to get the fish to go
Hmm.
off. I had Justin Martyr, and he was like, "There's no reason this isn't running Word of Their Testimony." Okay, fine. Threw it in reserve. Never used
Right.
it. Never used it across like a handful of games.
Yep.
Like Word of Their Testimony pales in all comparison to Blood of the Lamb. If you can only search for one, you're always going to search for Blood of the Lamb. And after you use it, it's in your discard pile. You've got Fifth Seal, Justice Seekers, so you can go into your discard pile. You're going to do that every
Yep.
time.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like it's good against a red dragon. It's decent off of Noah because it cannot be prevented if he plays it. But I think that there are just better cards for those. themes right now, or kind of the
Yeah.
reasons that you'd want it.
So is this a little bit of brotherly conflict here? You're trying to make sure that your brother's card gets put down under yours.
I mean, we already put his other one at number 15. So
Yeah, and now you're trying to put his second one down before yours goes down.
I mean,
I'm reading between the lines here.
it could be a little bit of that there, but I don't know. I'd be willing to put Bethlehem under Word of Their Testimony, but I think they'd be pretty close. We're just good about making fair, balanced cards.
Okay, so let me see if you have any opposition to doing this for a 3 card ranking. So we put down Bethlehem, Word of Their Testimony, then Mighty Warrior, and then knocks out the next 3. Gets us to the top 8.
I think that's probably fair. Yeah.
Okay, so Bethlehem.
Are you writing these down? Because I'm definitely not keeping
I
track.
am.
I'm just kind of like trying to memorize it in my head here, but I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, I'm writing them down.
All right, cool.
I'm keeping up with my spreadsheet, except for I'm using a pen this time.
Very nice. I hope you have boxes and everything, and you labeled your rows and your columns.
I actually didn't.
Oh man,
I'm just a failure.
Chris is going to be really disappointed in you.
All right, so top 8. So we have eliminated, or we have ranked. I won't say eliminated, although we've eliminated them from the rest of the ranking. Not Alone is 15th. 14th is Hope. Scapegoat is 13th. Lost Anointing is 12. Bethlehem 11. Word of Their Testimony 10. And The Mighty Warrior is 9.
Mm-hmm. I think I've got my number 8, so I'm going to let you think about it.
Your number 8. Let's see. We're getting into the part to where it's going to be like you're putting down a really good card at this point. But I think Covenant of Prayer has to be next because of the limited usage and application, and also the fact that it allowed people to run the Broken Love at First Sight combo. Gabe, what are you doing, man? You enabled the combo, man.
It's all his fault.
Golly. It's all Gabe's fault.
Yep, that was my number 8 too.
Nice.
Part of it was
on the same brain,
kind of like
brain
a
link.
personal vendetta against the card, though, because I did not like it at all when it first came out. So I was like,
yeah, I know you mentioned that on one of the early podcast episodes we had you on.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah. But basically, just to kind of reiterate the reasons. For one, I didn't at that point didn't like the free reserve access, because this came out basically with the reserve. Revelation of John was the first set to reference the reserve, and I was like, okay, well, we've just printed this card that lets you get any card from your reserve, which maybe that's a good thing because there wasn't a whole lot of reserve access, so you could put a bigger variety of cards in there. But then it just meant that it was an auto include in every deck, because it's one of these other 10 cards that you could choose, and then
so you just put it in your deck to kind of cut the odds down or increase the odds in your favor to be able to get to what you really want.
Right, yeah.
Versus like using that slot for individual creativity within deck building.
Yep. And then just the idea of getting a card back that was banished was kind of like, I don't know that I really like that. I've gotten used to it now, and I think that that's actually why Covenant of Prayer isn't lower on my list now, because like pre-GOC, I think it might have been a little bit lower on the list in my opinion, but I think Voice from Heaven starts becoming popular, and there are other cards that are already fairly popular, like Reverence and Awe, and Confusion is another one that we're going to get to here, that could banish your Son of God. And if you especially with Reverence and Awe, if they're banish your Son of God from your discard pile, then you get to use Covenant of Prayer to take it and play it again. And so I think that uh, Covenant of Prayer is better because of that. And I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that that's the reason that Voice from Heaven doesn't banish good dominance, because then it would just be like if
Yeah,
everyone's playing Voice from Heaven, everyone's playing Covenant of Prayer and getting another
I
dominance steal.
think I think you're right on that interaction because I thought about that too when I played. Ironically, you just got done playing Matt, and I played him the other day, and he played Voice from Heaven, and so it was when I was sorting out the cards from the discard pile, except good dominance, and I was like, okay, I know what that's for.
Yeah, I think it's either that or just to like not punish you super hard for playing Son of God and then playing Voice from Heaven before you get to your second coming.
Yeah, I guess timing could be an issue too for the user. Um, So moving on, I will say that we will definitely give Gabe some cool points for having commissioned art on his
Yeah,
card.
that's true.
It'd be kind of interesting to see if anybody comes with some custom art for their card this year
I'm gonna draw it
after
myself. It's gonna be
nationals.
great if I win.
You're gonna draw it yourself. Stick figures for the win.
I am by no means an artist, so
So now we're at number 7, the number of completion, and this is complete betrayal to one of these cards because they are all still really at this point they're all really good cards.
mhm.
I think I'm leaning a certain way, but I'll let you say and see if we're on the same brain waves again. What do you got?
I think I'm kind of between two, maybe three. Um,
Oh, okay, I thought I had a pretty clear one here,
I
but
think I'm gonna go with Leviathan.
really, is it Leviathan with the reserve rule is
Yeah, it's just
I think it got hurt a little bit being that turn one big strong character that's protected from dominance and it gets to go and pick up a negate from the reserve
right.
and not being able to do that turn one. Now it becomes a better block late game once you've burned resources. So
Yeah, I think that I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't play animals all that much. I mean, I was actually using Leviathan in the game that I just played that will be coming out on Thursday. So it's not that I never use it, but I just feel like it kind of had its moment for a while. But I don't know. Uh, it just feels like right now in the way that the meta is currently doesn't seem like it's quite up there.
although with the cross now tossing cannot be negated as another option along with Coliseum for CBN cards to be tossed. It adds another way to toss it.
That is true. Yeah.
So I mean, it could help out Genesis there where you can actually toss it without having to do the whole piece thing.
Yeah, that's
I
an
was
argument.
I was actually leaning towards, and I know it's really good, but it's also really limited. Um, maybe not. It, but if used by a Daniel Hero on it, so I was leaning toward Faith Unbowed.
That was one of my three.
So, I mean, it's a really good card if you're using Daniel,
Uh-huh.
but it's got to be a Daniel Hero to banish the card to do the protect, which is probably the strongest part of it, is that it interrupts the battle, withdraws characters, but then boom, removes itself to protect good cards. If you don't get that other part, then it's interrupt the battle, withdraw all evil characters. I mean, that's a good ability, but there's other ways to get that ability.
Yeah, I just think that I mean the yeah, I guess there are kind of other ways. I was just thinking about those other ways also being good though. Like, Royal Parade is a very good card. Just anything that interrupts and removes all evil characters from battle is something that I think is a lot better in rotation than it was previously. And so the fact that this can also be made cannot be negated by the promo Michael or by Mordecai, and the fact that I think Daniel decks are going to see a little bit of a resurgence after the Chief Prince is more widely available.
Oh, that card looks so good,
I
doesn't
know,
it?
right? Aside from the small typo, but we don't talk about that.
What typo is it again?
There's a small typo in his special ability. Um,
I probably already know this, and I've already forgotten it because I'm sure it was brought up on Discord.
let's see. Uh, I don't even know if, and I wonder if they fixed the image and that's the one that's in Lackey right now.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it on Your Turn Games. That's where I go to look up cards quickly.
Yeah.
So shout out to Derek for keeping his site up to date. But I don't.
he gets
I don't
the
see
same
anything here.
images that Lackey does. So
I know, but it also takes work to keep them updated.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I think it was that enhancements was spelled wrong.
Oh yeah, it didn't have the E after the C probably.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I don't know why. Like my phone auto corrects to an it auto fills an incorrect one, and then it'll put like the red line under it. And you click on it, and it'll try to change it. Like why did you auto fill to the wrong one? I mean, at some point, I'm sure I left the E off at some point, but why do you not just go to the one you know is right?
You claim to be a smartphone.
We're not going to start the Apple versus Android debate here.
No. I mean,
I know you're an Android fan.
I mean, I don't think my phone has ever done that, but yeah, we don't have to go there. I'm sure it's done that.
All right, so let's say, so you said Leviathan, I said Faith Unbowed, but Faith Unbowed was also in your top three, or your bottom three here. So I say we just split the difference and we go, since we both mentioned Faith Unbowed, we put it there and then Leviathan next.
I think that's fair. Although I think it's fair on Faith Unbowed. I'm willing to hear arguments for if you think Leviathan should be higher.
If it wasn't for the fact that he kind of loses some of his, I guess quick speed, being that turn one block that grabs you an animal from your deck and grabs his negate, because I mean with the way that offense is banned, I mean you're really looking at him to have a negate or something and overpower like an individual hero or a small band. So there's a lot of ways to get around him. I guess it would really come down to what I would put next. Like if Leviathan isn't here at number 6, what am I putting?
Right.
And so we've got Faith left, Joshua left, Ends of the Earth, Confusion, Colosseum, and Leviathan. And I think if I'm not putting him here, I think then I'm either putting Colosseum or the Ends of the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yep, those are the next two that I'm thinking as well.
And if I'm not doing Leviathan, I'm probably putting Josh Knitt's Ends of the Earth here.
That's I think what I would lean towards as well. But
I've noticed when I try to use Ends of the Earth now in today's game, and actually maybe this is the right move to leave Leviathan, move him one spot higher, and put Ends of the Earth here, because Ends of the Earth tends to get negated a good bit now, because it cannot be interrupted but cannot be prevented, and sights are neutral, so it gets hit by a lot of things these days. Now when it goes off, it's still really good, and it's good because you can use it on your deck to look at the top of your deck and try to find a battle winner, or you can use it for Soul Gen on your opponent. But right now, Soul Gen with Harvest Time, I don't know how that's really going to shape up, but it almost seems like even if you're not running Harvest Time, there's a chance your opponent's running it, and they're going to put souls on the board for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that all shakes out to where Ends of the Earth, it seems like it's going to be a more techie card, even more so than it has been currently.
Mm-hmm. Although I guess we will probably see a few more missionaries being coming out or being played, I guess, with all the New Testament stuff that's coming out. And so I think that there's kind of some decent...
See, there you go. I forgot all about the missionary line.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fair because I don't think anyone's ever used it until pretty soon here.
Preach to the ends of the earth now,
I mean,
missionaries. It is your time.
I guess like Paul he's pretty decent, and he only negates or he does not negate neutral cards from Axe, which Ends of the Earth is, and the Ends of the Earth is basically the reason that he has that exception.
Yeah.
And
I will also say, while we're talking about Ends of the Earth, just to put it out there, it's one of my favorite pieces of art on like a card that like you're not building your deck around. Obviously, like you can like a character or something a lot more than you can just a support card.
right,
But for just a support card, I really like the artwork.
yep,
I kind of I remember looking it up, and I was looking it up to see if I could get a play mat of it, but it's hard to do that because it's such a big image in a square format.
oh yeah,
To try to stretch that into a rectangle, you either cut off the top or the bottom, which kind of loses the way that it looks on the card.
yeah.
But I really like the artwork on Ends of the Earth.
Is there? I mean, I feel like the image is probably like kind of snipped off on the edges at a certain point. If you look at the
Yeah,
old
I looked
image.
online,
Oh,
and most of them were pretty squared.
I suppose I
So-
should have known you would do your research, you know. But what's especially cool though is if you look at the alternate border version, and that looks really sweet because it has all of the like Lost Soul images of like the like
Oh yeah,
classic
I remember
Lost
seeing
Souls.
that at one point.
Um, yeah, that one's really I think that makes it look a lot cooler. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so I'll let you choose between the two and choose the order. I think those are the next two though.
I think I'm going Leviathan and then Ends of the Earth. So the other thing about Ends of the Earth is you can so negating an evil or neutral card that's not in battle means you can negate one that's in set aside area. So you can negate a Gates of Hell or a Sheol, like if your hero uses a search ability or something.
So not in battle doesn't default to in play though.
That is correct.
Nice. I did not know that.
Yeah.
See, you might have to wait. You might have to wait an hour into an episode that was supposed to be 45 minutes, but you will find a nugget somewhere in here. There you go, people. Today's nugget.
Yep. I think the origin of that had something to do with Lampstand of the Sanctuary saying protect cards not in battle from evil dominance, and then it had always been ruled that it protected Lost Souls and Land of Redemption from falling away. And either they changed it, or after realizing that might not have been the case, or it was always the case. But cards that are not in battle means cards that are in play, set aside in Land of Redemption, I believe.
So, getting back to it, we're down to 4. The 4 remaining are Colosseum, Confusion, Joshua the Conqueror, and Faith. So at this point, 50% of the top 4 here were created by Brian Jones. So we need Brian Jones to come back and make some more cards, apparently.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Or maybe not. Maybe not. I don't. Like, do you say, good job, you made some cards that kind of stood the test of time, or do you say, hey, you made some kind of broken cards? I don't know.
I say, like, bravo
I
for
think
getting these cards past the playtesters and elders.
Pulling a fast one over.
Yeah, like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
I saw Joshua for the first time, and I was like, wait a second, like, this is what my card does. Like, I could have put so many more abilities on here.
You could fix Joshua just by taking away the modifier.
That's true.
Like, I think if he was easily negated or whatever, like exchanged to territory or something, then you could negate him, bring him back into battle or whatever. That'd be okay.
Or if he just didn't
think what
exchange.
makes him, huh?
Or if he just didn't exchange.
Well, I mean, I guess, but I think that's kind of the whole point of his character. Or this version, he just comes in, hits something, and then,
Right.
exchanges.
Yeah.
I think if you just got away from where it cannot be negated to where, like, even if they're preventing cards, negating, somehow they're negating, and then he does his thing no matter what. He gets through confusion of mind. He gets through all kinds of things.
Punisher.
Yeah, I was thinking for another one that was in rotation, and I couldn't do it off the top of my head. I had the old classic brain.
Covenant with Death.
Yeah, so I would say here I mentioned it before. I really do like Coliseum, but I think it would be my next one.
Yep, I think that's my number 4 here as well.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and put it down. We can spend a minute talking about it, I guess, just since we have every other card. I really do. I really do like it for the fact that you used to um, be able to work it to toss down a protected character, but now they've come out with other ways to do that. Like we mentioned earlier, the cross does basically the same thing. If it has cannot be negated, it gets tossed. Now this one did at the time that Cloud came out. I'm sure it was more. You might have saw more use for the or have no special ability part, but now that's really not applicable. We've got meek heroes. We don't necessarily have meek enhancements,
Right.
and I would say that most of those at this point, except for maybe the ones in the starter deck. I mean, I think those are the only ones that are in rotation. Is what came out of the starter decks for INJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the coolest application of that was to use Ethiopian Treasurer, which everybody knows the part about being able to play an enhancement, but it also lets you search your deck or discard pile for an enhancement without a special ability. And so if you ran Colosseum, you could run 3 copies of Letters to the Churches in your Type 1 deck, or just one, and then use ET to keep recycling it. But it's a 7/0 enhancement or purple enhancement with no special ability from the H deck. So it's just a toss for 7 that you could have available every turn with ET.
When I was building my King Noah deck, last tournament, end of the season before and into last tournament season before Love at First Sight, Ethiopian Treasurer was like battling Noah neck and neck for was he going to be that like superstar hero because you could put the thing on him to make him a king, and he was purple, and he would trigger Throne, and I think, let me make sure I'm not lying to you, but I'm pretty sure that a royal priesthood would go on him. I don't remember what the reasoning was that I got away from it. Yeah, a royal priesthood's got purple, so it would go on and make him a high priest and king of Judah.
Yep.
He was he New Testament?
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's what it was, and there was a lot of things that it didn't play well with because it was like Old Testament. Maybe that's what it was.
Sure. Yeah, well, if there's a good enhancement that doesn't have a special ability that has big enough strength, that was purple. Like Letters to the Churches is New Testament. But otherwise, if you could, or actually no, let's see, Throne of David just says purple enhancement, right?
That's what I was going to check. Yeah. I don't know what it was that I got away from him. Maybe I just thought Noah's prevent was just too good to pass up.
Yeah.
And I think honestly it was all the meek stuff that you could play off of it. Book of the Law, the meek protect, all of that stuff
Right.
that you couldn't do with the treasurer. But getting to play a pre-block enhancement and then getting to play one after they block would have been crazy. But I ended up kind of replicating that with hidden treasures before. So I could pop off the original, well, not the original, I think there was one before, but Authority of Christ promo version, pre-block, or the Flood pre-block, whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Throne of David does say Purple King, but OT enhancement. See, yeah, you couldn't play AOC or whatever. But
yeah, I couldn't play like a Royal Parade or anything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the better enhancements were, well, no, I mean I could play them. They were OT. I don't know what ended up pulling me away except for just the meek stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember there was something I was just like, oh nope, don't like that. I'm good. But I mean, it took everything in me not to roll with that guy for a little bit.
He was pretty good. He's a classic. ETAFC. That's where it was at.
So now we're down to the top three, and the top three being Confusion, Joshua, and Faith. I'm going to default to you here. I'm going to let you help pick the third one first, because all three of these are really good and are all three are very meta relevant right now, especially with Falling Away not being in the meta. Confusion is even better, because if you can get rid of their Son of God, then they lose the ability to play Falling Away on you to try to keep up a little bit. Like, this is it helps them get further, or the person that plays it get further along in the race 2-5.
Right.
Without the, I'm just going to play this card and, take a soul back to slow you down a little bit, taking that out of the meta if you can do this. And then if you could pair this with like undesirables. So I don't know how you put Confusion here, but then I don't know how you put Joshua or Faith here.
Yeah. I feel like both of us should come up with our order for the top three first, and then we'll share them.
See, the thing about Faith and Joshua versus Confusion is a win condition modifier. It modifies the other person's win condition at the drop of a hat. They now have to change the way that they're playing, and they have to potentially win 2 more battles.
Yep.
That most people don't plan to win 2 extra battles on offense. They're like, if I can get this for my first rescue, my second, this is my third. And beyond that, you can get most players shook when you take away those rescue options and they're having to find something outside of those. Especially newer players to the game, or, intermediate level players. So that one affects the overall win condition for the players, or at least the player that's affected by it. If you're the one to get it off, then you're in a better spot winning the game. So its potential to affect the game is ridiculously high.
Yep.
And then Joshua, I think, would be the one with the next ability to affect the game. And then Faith would be third. So, and I don't know if that means that you rank them, Confusion, Joshua, Faith, as 1, 2, and 3. But that's what I would say as far as the impact on the game. So how do you think they impact the game? Where would you rank them just on impact of the game?
I think, so like impact on a particular game, I think.
Now keep in mind that Faith, you can keep shuffling, because it says take, it doesn't say exchange. You can just keep shuffling it back into your deck so that they can't get their cross off.
Right. That's true.
Not that that's actually going to happen.
Until they reserve, just throwing it out there. Their, Bartimaeus
with their gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if that, because I've thought about the fact that there's so many enhancements that just shuffle themselves that you could just try to keep all those in your deck. So
right.
If somebody did play the cross, they would have to like mill you a little bit. But I think most decks that are playing the cross probably have an element of mill in them.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going for that, alternate win condition part of the cross, then yeah, I think so. Oh man.
I guess we should also keep in mind, I know that I asked you and I could just keep cutting you off on your thought. Maybe we shouldn't let Confusion win just because we don't want to hear John Early brag about still having, I created this card in 2015 and it's still the best created card.
See,
it's like, even stronger than the broken Joshua the Conqueror. I don't know if we can let him have that. One man should not wield that much power.
That's true.
To have that.
But then again, Brian's already got 2 in the top 3. Like, I don't know. I guess he hasn't been playing much recently, though. He probably won't listen to this, at least, not anytime soon. I don't know how much he's been playing lately, so maybe.
I don't know, but I will say I've heard his name quite a few, and by all accounts, I guess he was a really good player when he did play, especially considering he's got 2 cards. But yeah, if he ever did play in a meta tournament, maybe that would be the question we ask: is how did you sneak these by the playtest team?
Yep,
like Faith seems really strong, but then not only like so. you've got Not Alone by Your Brother and then Word of Their Testimony. They kind of, they fit in the same brigades because one of them's Rainbow,
Yep.
and they kind of help out the same thing. And then you have Daniel with Coliseum, and then Lost Anointing. He's really going regardless of Protect. I guess he does not like foreign wives.
Yeah.
With both of his. But then you look at Brian's, and one of them makes the other one stronger. And then, you get rid of him? Well, I'll use my other one to get my other one back. He made really good cards that have great synergy between them.
Yeah.
And they're both busted.
Yeah. I think, you kind of see some like play styles or kind of perspectives in the cards made here where like Daniel, he wanted, and Josh as well. They wanted cards that really kind of impacted the game or kind of fixed things in the game, or like, Coliseum made a huge impact when it first came out, and it's still pretty good today. And Ends of the Earth was to help Soul Drought and that kind of stuff. And
JD just wanted to interrupt the battle, apparently, because both of his says interrupt the battle and do a bunch of stuff.
Yep. No, you can kind of see some, like, I think kind of the faith unbowed and hope. Like, I think he kind of likes those more symbolic aspects, I guess. And
I think Hope was influenced by the Children of Light deck, where he used all of the fruits of the spirit or whatever.
I could see that.
Isn't that how that deck worked? So, I mean, after he won nationals, he was probably on a little bit of a Children of Light. I don't know, thrill ride, and he was just like, "Let's keep it going. Let's roll it into next year." And then the hammer came.
Yep. I could see that. Yep. Although I don't know, Children of Light isn't green or teal, so no chance to use the other side.
Yeah, I guess so. I really don't get the other side at all, to be honest. Like, I mean, I guess I get it for, like, a card titled Hope should fit into those brigades. Sure, prophets, bring hope of, a coming Messiah, that type of thing. The priest, looking over the people, the godly priest or whatever, offering hope to the people. But, like, with the other side being clay and white, it just doesn't. It just seems odd.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you were playing a deck with white, and it's almost like you don't play this in a deck where you can play both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just not a way to do it. You can do that with Scapegoat because one of them's, it's a different alignment. You've got Crimson, Animals, and then you've got Teal and Green for Prophets.
Right.
Here, it's both offense. So you have 4 brigades represented, and okay, I guess you could hit one of those, but very rarely are you going to have white and clay and then green and teal.
Yeah.
And be able to ensure that you're able to play it both ways.
Yep. And I'm sure that he's got like a perfectly logical explanation for like why, he wanted to do those brigades on those sides and everything. But maybe one of the elders who worked with him or something knows. Yeah. I can't really put it together.
I will say that there's not a single card here except for Scapegoat on the animal side that is single brigade. So when Gabe mentioned that the cards for this new run of the player created cards is going to be single brigade character or enhancement, you can definitely see the toning down already. No modifiers, and it's going to be single brigade because every one of these is multi-brigade.
Yeah.
Or they're not a character or an enhancement.
I guess
an enhancement.
Leviathan on the enhancement side, I guess, technically counts too.
Oh, okay. That's fair. But it so rarely gets used on that side.
Yeah.
That it doesn't register with me as quickly.
I guess Hope is kind of the ultimate initiative hero, though. 0-12,
Is it? Because the worm still exists.
Yeah, the worm's a 0-1. So it's
yeah, that is the ultimate. Like, you can't get any better than that.
Well, but if the worm blocks Hope, then it'd be stalemate. So it'd be Hope's initiative.
Yeah, that is fair. Look at you bringing reason to the plate.
Yeah.
I just need you to bring a ranking to the plate.
Got to give people hope, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just confusion. I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think's better, Faith or Joshua of the two Brian Jones cards?
I'm leaning towards Joshua, but I mean, I think that like if you had asked me last year, I think I would easily put Joshua, Faith, then Confusion.
Yes, I absolutely. I think it's really come back with the fact that, especially in Pale Green, having one of the only ways to shuffle all the lost souls on your side with Death of Unrighteous, and then you add in Confusion. So I think it's rotation has definitely made it more playable, getting rid of Falling Away, so that you really hurt them if you're able to do that, and the fact that if you start building that deck that's going to try to manipulate the win condition by hiding souls with Confusion of Mind, you can also play Confusion. There's just also a lot of really good characters to play this off of. We just mentioned, the Worm. Not that you really get initiative against everything, but if you want just a low number guy to get initiative, you could grab this from Reserve. I know that Reserve has the delay now, but you can grab it with Persian Horseman. Conjurers grabs it. Babylonian Siege Army. Or no, I'm sorry, not Babylonian Siege Army. Mounted Forces. Yes. Those all grab it from Reserve, so it's easily,
The Rabshika.
accessible that way. You can also, there you go. And you can play it off of, the Serpent. So you can come in, paralyze, boom, play this, die.
Yep.
And if you do that, then, I mean, it's almost like game, set, match.
Yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, for some reason I feel like Confusion has, like, even though all of the cards that work well with it have already been out for long enough, maybe it is rotation and, the fact that Falling Away isn't there, that, I see Confusion being played more often. I think there were certain people that played it all the time, but I think that, now it's being seen by more people. And I think also the amount of banding that people are doing on offense right now, and the amount of like, I'm just going to be bigger, give you initiative, and then just negate whatever you're playing, I think makes Confusion a little bit more likely to happen. Even if you are blocking with the 6/6 mounted forces, you might still get initiative to play Confusion if you pull it from Reserve.
Definitely, because also you're looking at, or I know at least for my purposes, the way that I think about it is, I would almost give you that soul. I'm okay with losing my evil character, giving you that soul to take away your 2 free ones by getting rid of your Son of God.
Right.
And we also talked about earlier Covenant of Prayer, one of the few cards. Actually, maybe the only card that gets it back once it's banished. That card hasn't seen as much play. So, back when you talked about when it first came out, and Covenant of Prayer was everywhere. Confusion, it was counter. It was kind of like Falling Away and Guardian of Your Souls.
Yep.
There was a ebb and flow there.
Yep.
Which card is getting played the most, and then you have to have one to counteract the other. But you probably aren't trying to play both, or maybe you do. And, you just have that back and forth. And now, as Covenant of Prayer usage has gone down, Confusion is on the rise. And if it starts being something that gets off a lot more, then, even though it's getting played now, there's plenty of ways to negate it. But if it gets to where it's punching through a lot more, I could see players starting to pick up Covenant of Prayer again.
Yep, I can certainly see that.
I think it's just kind of like that same ebb and flow that Guardian of Your Souls and Falling Away had.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. I feel like people probably want us to stop beating around the bush here. I think I would go with your kind of impact on the game order, and I think that's what I'm going to go with for my overall, even though it does, give the top spot to John.
Yeah, we don't need him getting the top spot on anything, so maybe I'll just we'll just not publish the episode to where he can hear it. We'll have something that restricts his access.
There we go. Yeah.
So Joshua number 2, Faith number 3, and number 1 is confusion. And I think it's really, I think when I looked at this list before, because I knew what we were doing, you got this sprung on you as the episode started being recorded here. I was thinking, and I was just like, I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to force it. But if it's up to me, I would say confusion, just because it directly, everything else affects like battles and, whatnot. But then a Dom could come in, even if you get a block with a character, or, you win a battle, they could hit you with a dominant to not give up a soul.
Mm-hmm.
If confusion goes off, it's removed from the game. No dominant, hits it.
Yep.
So, and the fact that it directly correlates to an impact on the win condition of the player that it's being played against. When I looked at the list, that was going to be my number one if I had to rank on myself.
Sure. Well, okay,
but I didn't want to force it and influence yours.
There is one dominant that does impact it, though. You have to ask Brad. You can play awesome things.
Yeah, if you play awesome things to interrupt the battle, yes.
Interrupt the battle.
Which I tried to tell him that for the longest time. Don't get me started on this. I tried to tell him that happened, but he played against somebody that said it didn't work at some point, and he's like, no, they said it didn't work, and I'm like, Brad, it works. It works. And I'm like, if I have a question about something and it's going to impact a game that I'm trying to play, sometimes I won't even ask it. I'll just like DM Marcus and ask him, because I don't want to like give away what I'm trying to do. I don't know why it's, those rules. And it's also the fact that like I just want a straight answer from him versus someone giving their opinion. And I try not to, unless I think I'm 100% right, I try not to say anything definitive on a ruling. I'll be like, well, this is what I think. But some people answer, and then Marcus comes in and completely undoes what they say. And I would hate to play a game working off of something and then a day or two later realize that it was wrong. And so sometimes I'll just message him directly to get an answer.
I get that. I usually message him directly when I find a combo, and I just want to be like, hey, does this work right? Does this work the way I think it works?
And then he tells you, yes, Jayden, you can deck out.
That's pretty much exactly what it was like. So I think the one more argument for confusion that you as a Type 1 player may not have picked up on, but it does say remove all copies of the named card in the player's deck, discard pile, and hand from the game. So
so if they have like a main hero that they're using or something.
Yeah, mostly it's going to be enhancements, where especially now with GOC having a lot more single brigade enhancements.
Yeah, all four of your Amazing Faith are gone.
Yeah, well, I was thinking Teaching in Parables, but Amazing Faith, that works too. It probably isn't a 4 of in Type 2, but it's...
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because you have to play it in battle.
Yeah, and eventually you're going to run out of good dominance.
That card looks ridiculous. I can't wait to throw it into a post-exilic deck, because
it's definitely pretty good. I was talking to Chris when we were doing the box opening. I think that was before you got there, and we were talking about it a little bit. We were probably like, yeah, it's probably a 2 or 3 in Type 2, but I'll build you a Type 2 deck with 4 of them in there.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and set me up to lose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll set you up to realize you were wrong, and then you can correct your mistakes,
Nice. All right. Well, so that's the definitive rankings for all of the player-created cards. We've got Not Alone, Hope, Scapegoat, Lost Anointing, Bethlehem, Word of Their Testimony, The Mighty Warrior, Covenant of Prayer, Faith Unbowed, Leviathan, Ends of the Earth, Colosseum, Faith, Joshua, and Confusion at the top. That's how we ranked them. That's the official list. Me and Jayden decided. Yep. You guys don't get a vote. You just got to accept that's what they are.
What it is.
Okay? But definitely the big takeaway is that Create a Card is coming back in a more simplistic form, and all of the parameters were at the beginning of the episode, and you can go back and listen to that. When it's posted on Land of Redemption, we'll probably list out the parameters there as well. Mm-hmm. But definitely you want to try targeting winning one of the 5 categories at Nationals so that you can create your own card. I think even if the cards aren't as strong as cards in the past, it's still a pretty cool idea to know that you got to create a card, pick out, title of the card, the artwork, the ability, that type of thing. So hopefully this is just another bit of fuel to the hype train as we head toward Nationals in July in Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
So in closing, is there anything you want to say to the beautiful people out there, Jayden?
I would just like to reiterate your point about, the power of the card, even though they're not going to be quite as good, isn't necessarily, what matters. I'm perfectly fine having my created card be around like 10. Is that what we put it at?
It was the 11th. It did not make the top 10.
Well,
but
in that case, never mind. The power is everything. I'm just I think that it's pretty cool to be able to have a card that has, I guess, your title on it, or kind of to remember that. And I think it's I always enjoy being like, all right, this deck, I can fit Bethlehem in there. And so I think that even if they're not the most competitive cards or the most like playable cards, it's still a lot of fun to have them available. You see them in booster draft and other limited categories, and just kind of more like fun decks, even if they're not the Faiths and the Joshuas and the Confusions of the game.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and close the episode here. Thank you for coming on, Jayden, and talking and trying to crush your brother's hopes and dreams and put your card above his, even though it didn't quite work out that way in the final standings.
We win some, we lose some.
You also gave bragging rights to your brother-in-law, so it's going to be fun holidays at your place. But hopefully you all are making plans to join us at Nationals, and we'll keep the hype train rolling. So
Let's go.
Thanks for listening. Peace. All right, that's going to do it for us. Episode 19 in the books. Want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Also would like to thank Jayden for coming on and, hanging out with me for this episode. Hopefully you guys are as excited as I am about the card creation incentive coming back, and the fact that Cactus and Rob and the design team, the elders, are pulling out all of the stops to make this the greatest Nationals as far as the overwhelming hype and anticipation to try to drive those numbers back up to a healthy level. So hopefully you're making your plans to be at Nationals, because it's going to be insane. So make sure you make your plans. Join us there. Also, Lackey Grand Prix version 2 is now underway. So make sure you get your matchups in, and you have until Monday to do so. And we'll talk to you next week on the next episode. Thanks for being here. Peace.